Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Erasmus Expeditions with episode 12 of the Help Action series here that is part of the Life by the Square Inch series on the channel. And today I'm going to welcome on a guest to talk about humor in RPGs. The show is intended to be kind of one part interview, one part topic discussion, and one part Q&A with our guests. So sometimes we have people tuning in, which we do have several tuning in tonight. Thank you very, very much. If you have questions, drop them in the chat. Just put question up front so that way it kind of stands out a bit for me whenever I go looking for it. So I think that takes care of all of the business end. So to help me talk about this topic tonight, I have a very good friend of mine and a person I get the pleasure of gaming with often. So I know that this is a topic that he'll be able to tackle very, very well. Baron, you son of a bitch. How are you doing?
We're rolling with the punches, but not too bad. Not too bad. Happy to be here.
Excellent, and I'm glad you're here. I've been wanting to get you on this for a while, so finally kind of circled around this topic, and I think it should be a good one to discuss. It's not something that I've seen addressed before on these kinds of shows or podcasts, so it also is a topic that tends to divide the community kind of with a pretty deep schism. Schism? Nope, chasm sometimes. So I'm very excited about getting to it because humor is certainly something that is kind of near and dear to my heart. All right. All right. So there is a question that has been posted in the chat. I wanted to come back to that in just one moment, but first, I think. Let's see where I want to start. Okay, I'm going to start with one of the questions that I'd like to ask everybody, and that is, when and how did you find gaming? How did you get into this hobby?
So, I got into D&D fairly late compared to some of the people that I play with. I was 8, and my uncle bought the Forge of Fury module for 3.5, and I had seen him play a couple times, and I had gone with him, and he ran this for me. That translated to me best word attempting to run a game for my friends. 8 years old and the attention span of a fruit fly, it only got so far. Uh, it was always I have fucking 20, maybe 25, 3, 5 books just because I would buy them with my own money and like read them for fun, not even being able to play. And when this was probably 3 or 4 years ago now, I seen fifth edition. I was with a couple guys that I had been hanging out with real frequent, and I was like, guys, do you want to? I like bought the starter set and was like, guys, let's fucking play this. This is way easier than the game that I used to seeing. There's only 12 classes or however many there are, as compared to like 40 subclasses and archetypes, and I was like, this looks fucking easy. This is totally teachable to somebody. And we played the starter set, and a couple guys were more about it than others. We played into the Princess of the Apocalypse module. A couple guys just kind of fell out and had some life things come up, and our group kind of disbanded. And I tried off and on for a while to get something back together, but it ultimately led me to finding AbTab. I think I watched it was Tim Carney's I want to say Tomb of the Frozen King with you and Jeff that I seen. I think, to be completely honest, I seen that and I was like, "Whoa, this is how
Yeah.
you can
Okay.
play. You can play the game this way. You're not just like I fucking attack everything. You can fucking talk in this game. What?" And I found AbTab and got the luck of the draw and getting into one of your games right in the start, and here I am. Fucking 200 plus games later.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a no small percentage of them that we've played together. For
Truly.
Sure. So yeah, I think I remember that game that you were talking about. I think it was Matt's game, and he ran Oath
It
of the
may have
Frozen
been Matt.
King with Black Hack, I think. But
I think I said I don't remember actually. You did play Black Hack.
mm-hmm.
Maybe it wasn't you then, because I'm pretty sure I watched it with Tim. I watched that one too.
Yeah.
I had like all these faces of like people that popped up all the time, and it was like, oh my god, I'm with giants.
Oh man. So that's interesting. So you started reading the books and really kind of got your first taste at a really young age, but then it was really kind of a long time before you got to really delve in and start to learn.
I mean, truthfully, I had always been into like RPGs and stuff. I played, Diablo and all sorts of PlayStation RPGs. And me and my buddies, we were always like writing stories and coming up like we would play, games on the trampoline where we'd come up with these crazy characters and like they were silly, of course, but just long stories that it was like, sagas of this and this part's not, and so storytelling was always kind of a part of that. And I think being able to do so in a way that was efficient, if that makes sense, with other people. So it's not like I'm coming up with a story, but collectively we're working together to roll some dice and see some probability outcomes and stuff. And yeah, I didn't play D&D for probably 15 years before I got back into it. So
that's awesome. And that's one of the cool things that's kind of been happening in the hobby lately is a lot of people who had stepped away whenever they were younger are coming back now. Now, usually it's people who are who stepped away whenever they were more your age, and then now they're coming back, when they're in their 50s or 60s.
Right. Yeah, AD&D veterans themselves and whatnot, which
absolutely.
Knowing that like there's so many like nuggets of cool stuff in the older editions, I've been like backtracking and like I looked through all my 3.5 stuff. I was looking into second edition and first edition, and
oh man, there's some good stuff.
The first books I ever had were actually second edition. I think they were like black covers, like the black rim, like Player's Handbook had a guy breaking down a door.
Oh yeah.
It's all like
Jeff Easley art.
Yep. Oh, that art does something to my heart.
Where the invisible stalker picture is
just an outline
rectangle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The second edition monster manual it has like all the ecology of the monster and like their personalities and stuff. I absolutely love it. It's probably one of my most frequently referenced books.
Me and a buddy of mine, we would look at this book for hours and just like come up with crazy stories and all this stuff. And like, I actually gave this book to him as a gift like 5-10 years ago. And he's like, dude, this means so much. And it's like, go out there and run your own games, friend.
Put you out of the nest.
He's a good buddy of mine. He plays in my home game. I can't say that I haven't tried to kill him a lot. But it's all fair.
Yeah, sometimes whenever you learn that certain players can take that, then like it becomes a lot easier to dish out the pain and know that they're okay.
Right.
There's some people that get real butthurt about that stuff, and then there's other people that are like, whatever, man, like it doesn't matter.
I feel like a one shot without a death is like a Dothraki wedding. It's a dull affair.
Wow. All right, so
it's a humor video. We're supposed to be funny.
Well, we'll try harder.
Attempt.
Okay. So I suppose we should actually kind of get this on point here. So,
absolutely.
In some circles, the term chucklefuckery gets thrown around a lot to refer to the negative side of humor during a game. is there a difference between humor and chuckle fuckery? What is that difference, and how important of a distinction is it to make?
I'm gonna say yes for the sake of just it is. Humor, and I mean, I appreciate you having me on for this video, but I am obviously no psychological master by any means, but this is what it is to me, is when your character is a cynic or your NPC is depressed or a variety of dispositions, like making jokes is a coping mechanism. So you can have a joke that's vulgar and fit the tone and fit the setting, and it's like, oh, this guy's just extremely fed up with all this. Or you can say a joke and it's vulgar and it's like, oh, this guy is, making a dick joke or whatever. There, chuckle fuckery does have its place in games when you're in situations that call for it, but like if I'm in a somber game or something where the situation doesn't call for it, it's picking your audience, if you will. I'm not going to try and make a dick joke if we're making, if we're mourning the loss of somebody. I'm not going to do that at a funeral. Why the hell am I going to do that in the story? That doesn't make any sense. But then you have your like lighthearted, beer and pretzels games where it's like sometimes the whole game is chuckle fuckery, and that doesn't make it a bad game. I feel like that's something that's determined by you as the DM and the players you choose and your interactions that determine that. And I mean, those are some of my favorite games. It's a dichotomy, There is you can have one without the other without coming off as like, oh, you have to allow it. No, you don't. It's you're picking your battles if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. It makes absolute sense to me. I think there's a very clear distinction between humor and chuckle fuckery, and again, like chuckle fuckery is the stuff that breaks the game down. That's what brings it to a halt because people stop paying attention to what's going on, and the story thread starts going all kind of crazy, and you get sometimes some really really off the wall stuff. And again, like if the game's going that way and the whole table's okay with it, then pick it up and run with it because it is a lot of fun. I've played in a few games where by the end of it, like my ribs hurt and my cheeks hurt because I've been laughing through the entire thing. And like you said, it's one of my favorite games.
Those are where your inside jokes come from.
Yes.
Your campaign like things where it's like you'll get a slogan for the campaign. It's like every time this happens, that's where those come from. Those are your chuckle fuckery moments that are worth it. I mean, to me anyway, those are the stuff that I can be like 2 weeks later and bring it up and someone will be like, oh my God. Okay. For example, I played in a game where my friend tied himself to the ballista bolt to shoot at the dragon. He was being completely serious. He's like, you're going to shoot me at the dragon. So the dragon flies by, the ballista bolt shoots the dragon, the ballista bolt hits, and he is ripped upwards of 240 miles an hour away from this castle. And I was like, well, you're taking falling damage, or you're being dragged around at a voracious velocity, and it wasn't a chuckle fuckery moment at the time, but it turned into it shortly thereafter. But that was like 3 years ago, and I could still be like, "You want to tie yourself to the ballista man?" And he'd be like, "Fuck you, bro." I mean, they're both worth it, in my opinion.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, there's a time and a place and a table for both. And I also have to agree with the point that you made that humor is a coping mechanism because it absolutely is. And that actually will brings me to one of the preloaded questions that is similarly related because the answer that someone else gave actually has that phrase in it. But the question itself is from Caius Wallen, and he says, I guess my ultimate goal in a game is to experience intense sweet and sour emotion. How can humor be used as a toll to contribute to this goal? Oh, wait a second. How can humor be used as a tool to contribute towards this goal?
Well, just as if, I mean, two sides of the same coin. If you're looking to experience the ultimate sadness and pain, I mean, to me, laughing and joking and enjoying myself is the polar opposite. And I mean, to use it as a tool, I guess it just comes too instinctually in my mind to like actively like I'm gonna do this to experience the most out of the game. And I may be interpreting this question wrong, but um, I feel like it if it was used as a tool, it would be more of a backstory or like explanation to a character goal. Um, humor, okay, Tord, for example, in Banners beneath Banner Shadow. Tord is the butt of a lot of jokes, and he rolls with the punches. He likes messing with people, but he also has a fairly tragic backstory. And one of the tenets that he follows is that he will preserve life and enjoy life to the fullest. And I don't think he would be able to do that without having been so sad. It's like a pendulum. If you can feel something very deeply one way, you can ultimately feel it the other. And I mean, there are examples of that in entertainment. These very, very funny people being, extraordinarily depressed and making bad decisions. It makes sense when a character is being trying to be funny at least, or see the light in every situation, and they're the ones that have had a bad hand dealt to them. That's just a way to explain it, I guess. So they go hand in hand as a tool to feel both. I don't know. That's a tough question. Good question, Caius.
Yeah, it kind of helps achieve balance a little bit, I think, like you said, to have both. If you have a character who is just always the funny guy, then that tends to be a bit two-dimensional, a little unrealistic, more like a caricature. But the same thing, if you're too melodramatic, if you're somber and sad and, edgy all the time, then that's just as flat. That's just as two-dimensional. Real people typically aren't like that. There's some kind of mixture of both. And I mean, even in sad situations in real life, humor is a wonderful, wonderful thing to get you through really tough times. I mean, whenever my father died, my family, we were laughing at the funeral. We were joking and cutting up and stuff. That's just my family. That's just the way that we've always been with each other. And it's not about being disrespectful or not, keeping the right mood. There's a certain level of humor that's appropriate in those moments, I think. Um, and it's sometimes necessary. Uh, I think people really, really underestimate the power of comedy and laughter, and what that can actually bring to someone in a time of need. So,
Um, it's funny because like whenever someone comes to me and they're upset or something, and it's like the first thing I'm going to try to do is make them laugh, and I get the same response every time, like, "Oh, don't do that. I want to be mad." And it's like, "Oh, I know. I understand. It feels good to feel mad sometimes." But it's not good to act on mad emotions, etc. And as soon as you laugh about something, there is that, glass shattering moment where it's like, damn it, I'm not as mad as I was anymore. And I mean, that's a good tool. That's not best for every situation. It takes a conscious evaluation of the situation or the person, or it's like, should I do this? And that's just with everything in social interaction. You can't. I mean, you can. You shouldn't. just do something the same way every time, obviously. So like you guys laughing at your funeral, that's you guys, and that's a very, enlightening thing to hear that people handle situations like that in this way because it works. It gets you through it. And you're right, it brings that third dimension to, the chuckle fuckery character or the super edge is having both. So it's like, oh, this person feels things he other than sadness or stupidity.
I think having a sense of humor is a really good way of being introspective. I think that way, if you can look at yourself, the things that you've done, the things you say in a humorous light, even the things that are happening to you that are kind of tragic and might affect you, if you have a way of being able to hold that in a humorous light, it keeps you from having to fall too far down in the wells of negative emotions, for me at least. It's not like it's not that it makes it less sad. It's just I don't have to go as deep into my grief before I'm okay with what happened.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a point, and I wanted to touch on that, is kind of the sensitivity, the context, the situation. Arguably, one of the most crucial parts of comedy is timing. It's the when and the where of appropriately delivering a joke. So, what are some of the guidelines that you would consider when addressing bringing humor to the table?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's important. I personally think I have had the luxury of meeting a lot of people that I play with in person at AtCon, as well as spending, countless hours in games to know them enough that I know boundaries, what would make somebody uncomfortable. And I know playing online with that can be tough, but it's something worth putting effort into because some of the jokes that I make with some people, for example, in our Acid Rain game, I said things that I would never say online because I was with, you, Dave, Philip, and Jose, people that I know share the same, thoughts about things, and we can make jokes about, very vulgar and funny things to us. It was funny to us, and that's what I did this for. But when I play in more serious games, it's like I'm not going to make those kinds of jokes because contextually it doesn't make any sense. And like with the people, doesn't make any sense. It's I'm not a stand-up comedian, but from what I can tell, you definitely got to read the room in any situation because some jokes are not jokes to some people. And though ultimately humor has no discretion, you have to have discretion, and that's important because you can say whatever you want, but that someone doesn't have to like you for it. And I personally like playing with as many people as I can and in as many games as I can. So, sure, if I'm in the chat, you already know I'm making jokes every second, but I'm not going to say those in a game unless my character is in a position where it's like, this makes sense. And I can get a response from another person's character about said joke. And those kind of dialogues are, um, they're real, you know, that's the banter that makes up the dialogue in a movie. That's the funny parts. That's the serious parts. That's where this game becomes more than numbers and dice and becomes a story to me.
Well said. Um, I think it's absolutely like anything else in the game where reading the table is essential. That should be a constant thing that you're connected to or attempting to figure out before you start speaking or acting. Now, not every time should you take everything into consideration? Because sometimes there's a reason to do something that's shocking or that is different than what is expected of the table. But emotionally, reading the table is very, very imperative, I think. And I think it's no different in humor than it is knowing when it would be okay to push a scene in a sad direction with a specific character, especially something about their backstory, or when it's okay, or when it is the right time to pass the spotlight. All of those things are,
I mean, it's like also the violence that you put into a game. You're
yeah,
not going to be overly graphic with this group of people, or this one, they're blood and guts, and it's reading the table is imperative to the DM's arsenal because you're invoking the players. So, some players are invoked by humor. Some players are invoked by the somber stories. It's if you can't read the table, you're not playing the game to the fullest almost. I don't want to say there's a wrong way. There's no
no,
wrong way to play the game.
I think it's a
But
handy though.
yeah,
I
you're
will say
limiting
you're
yourself to what other people can give to you for the game.
handy. Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons why when you put prepared material in front of a table, it's so vastly different. Is because there is no table that is the same. Even from session to session, the same people, the experience is going to be different because of the mood that everybody comes to the table with. Um, who's in the room when a certain joke is made. All of that kind of stuff is different every single time. So um, the humor that's appropriate for a table is equally just as you know um, widespread. You have to bespoke it to the group of people that you're with in order for it to work right, I think.
DMing is like having a bunch of knobs of various different variables that this game is going through, and you just gotta constantly play with these knobs, figure out, all right, here's a sweet spot. Oh, we can have some jokes today, because I mean, like absolutely what you're saying is like if you have a game where someone who's usually upbeat and had a hard week, that they just want to kill some stuff, that can, you can change the game to kind of fit the table. I mean, if you have a high RP group and it's like we've been slogging through, social encounter after social encounter, let's let's kill some stuff. And you gotta be able to read the table. It's a tough on paper kind of thing, but the more you play it, like everything in DMing and playing this game gets easier the more you do it.
Yeah, even if people don't like using XP, this game absolutely runs on experience, one way or another.
Absolutely.
It's just always been the way that it
I
is.
just don't get to track mine, unfortunately.
I
I
wish
probably
there's
have
like a
skill points. I
leveling
have
up
skill
system.
points all over the board. If I could see my character sheet, I would be so pissed.
Don't let the grognards know. They'll all be
Right.
like 40th level.
He's
Using
like,
the
dude,
fifth level
you've
handbook.
never used your rope. You've had rope in your inventory for 25 years. What the hell? It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know where my rope is. How do I unlock my inventory?
Oh man. Okay. Uh, Another talking point is a big issue that I think some people have with humor is that it can distract the players and the GM. It can spawn kind of subsequent tangents of other jokes. It can dampen immersion. It could possibly even belittle the material that's being presented. So side chatter at a physical table can easily get out of hand. So in your opinion, is that a place where gaming online is superior with kind of a dedicated chat window that's separate from the ongoing game?
As a admitted chat window abuser, absolutely. I wouldn't be able to get into games online if there wasn't a chat window because I have to. I can't help it. I just have to. I'm always it's a problem. Okay. I abuse the chat window. And the group that I play with in real life, we are all like that. So we do play for a little bit longer in real life. I mean, online games, I'm super appreciative that they are only like 3 to 4 hours because the 8 hour sessions I've played in real life, they are a workout. So there are a variety of things that I prefer online, but the chat window is definitely top three because the sense of professionalism that you have online, whether obviously we're all just doing the best we can, and that's all you really can do. I know personally that if I'm in a game online and I have not been as fantastic as I would like to be about some of these things, but you know, you mute up, you wait your turn, you share the spotlight, you do not detract from a game on someone else's channel. That's rude. I'm not going to interrupt you online to say my joke. And if half the time when it does happen and I do accidentally pop up because I forgot to mute, it's just that I forgot to mute. And I was going to say this joke out loud to myself just to get it out, and it happens. Uh, I like online for that professionalism because it allows you to play games in 3 4 hours that would take so much longer because of the tangents that we can work through in the chat rather than, taking away from anybody playing the game. Because tangents don't always affect everybody. And, me and you can be joking about something in the chat, and, three other players are having their moment of RP or doing, something that shines the light on them. And that doesn't always happen in real life, to me, anyway. We will sit there and joke about. I don't know how much we actually play D&D in my home group as compared to attempting to play D&D while we're laughing about the stupid stuff we do in D&D.
Yeah, our home group definitely plays for longer than most of the time that we play online as well, and a lot of it is for the same reason. We're not always just chuckling up, but a lot of times it's getting caught up on everything that's been going on, discussing some current events, mainly like what movies and TV shows have come out that are good, that kind of stuff. But yeah, having the chat is a really really nice thing because like in person, if you're sitting next to me at the table, I can just lean over and kind of quietly say something to you, and it's not going to affect anybody else at the table. But if it's just the microphone, in Hangouts or whatever, then it's going to cut over to you. Everybody's going to hear what you're saying while whatever else is being said is going on at the same time. So it's very, very distracting to anybody who's watching and any of the players or the GM who are trying to pay attention. So yeah, I think the chat is a very, very valuable thing that playing online brings to the table.
Even conversation like aside, it's a notepad that everyone can see. I can throw in initiative orders, or you can get help. You can put in, oh, you need a group roll, and rather than have 5 people shout a number at you, throw it in the chat. So now I can see. I may have my problem with Hangouts right now, but it's got an all right chat window.
Don't say anything like that. It'll get a big head. We'll start.
Yeah, no kidding. Maybe it'll start working.
we can hope.
No, Google's probably going to come after me now.
Yeah, definitely. So, there are those who feel that humor has no place in a serious game, especially in character. Personally, I believe that moments of levity are even more necessary in a dark or somber game, kind of a momentary release from the rising tension we talked about before. But how do you keep your humor in context so that it adds rather than detracts from the moment?
Well, same real answer that I've had for most of these questions. You got to feel the room. In my experience, getting into games with interest posts Um, a lot of the times, I personally choose people that drop character concepts. So at least I know that they read the material or have an understanding of what kind of game I'm putting forth. And that right there is the first indicator of this kind of idea at all. Because that means you at least have a grasp of what we're going for. And that in turn kind of leads to being able to feel the setting, similar to feeling the room. So I know personally, I don't go for serious. I like the serious games occasionally. They scratch an itch, but they're niche in my opinion, and that's my favorite part of the internet. Is there's so many games to get involved with that it's. I feel like that is the only reason that this question even exists is because there are serious games. Like I feel like at one point we were all kind of trapped to the confines of our home group and the games we played were the games we played. Now you can be like, serious noir or, you know, chuckle fuckery hack and slash or exploration and conquest or and that kind of breakdown of this hobby has certainly allowed for the creation of somber, and gloomy, or serious games as compared to this game is pretty lighthearted. We take it easy. We're just trying to tell a story, hang out, have some fun. So to answer your question, humor has a place in every game. It's just there's so many different types of humor, then there's so many different types of games that if you understand the setting and you understand the people that you're playing with, it will just come to you, really. It's not, I mean, I can't teach anybody to be funny. I don't even think I'm fucking funny. If you laugh at me, sorry. But that's just all part of playing online. These are people that you're interacting with through a screen. So doing the best to be courteous and observant of the people you're playing with is the best way to figure out what kind of humor goes where. Like we said earlier, somber and depressed people will make cynical jokes and they'll joke about killing themselves and all these things. And that's real life. That's people. Humor, it's an emotion. You can't not use it or you become flat or one dimensional. And I mean, you're not going to be a character that's like, I'm going to be happy only. It's like, why? I don't know. I'm going to be only happy. It's like, I mean, okay, that sounds terrible. But in my mind, I will always try to. I mean, you got to make light of the situation.
Yeah, and I think like what you hit on earlier, it's a bit of a seesaw. You can only push the seesaw one direction so much before it stops being fun, and it needs to go back the other direction a little. Maybe not in equal measure, but at least more that direction before you can get more, mileage or play out of pushing it back. It's I don't know. If you run a game that is just adrenaline to the max, pedal to the metal on anger and tension and danger and all of these things, then that wears out after a while. It stops having an effect. You need to break that up in order to be able to then put the pedal to the metal again. Um,
So
yeah,
here is actually your game Banners, obviously one of the best games that I've ever gotten the joy to play in. But we have been full bore since session one. I am convinced I'm going to die next session. I've been convinced I'm going to die for the last 8 sessions. And we break that down with the group that we have, luckily, is able to have scenes where it's like we're tearing up, where we're all having a roughie. We're like going through a hard time, and then 10 minutes later, me and Karen Davies are just ripping into each other, and everyone's like, "This is hilarious. I'm having a great time. I feel no fear." And then it's like combat. I'm gonna die. You it Yeah, I mean, like you said, it breaks it up. You can only go so far one way before it's like, fuck, this is too much. And I feel like that game specifically is very good. We ride this narrow line of how hard we can push ourselves while still making light of our situation and dealing with these crazy problems, but we can still really poke at each other. And it's not always like lighthearted for our characters, but we outside in like the real world are like, oh my God, I can't believe I just said that to you. It's it it all comes down to the same thing, man. You can't push one way too hard, and you got to feel the room. We mesh that out in the beginning with what boundaries. It's it's a lot of prep work. This game is, if you do the proper prep work and you either know the person or you're willing to ask questions about what they want from a game, what they don't want to talk about, what they have no problem talking about, and doing those steps, though it's work. And I understand that, you know, people have finite amounts of time. Nobody wants to go into a session zero where you're like, here's paperwork, fill this out for me so I can get a calculation on how much exploration and how sadistic I can be. But doing like, here, just tell me on a scale what you'd like to see between, lighthearted and, horrifically dark and, anything else you need me to know. I'm going to take that into consideration because I don't want to make a joke and everyone be like, oh man, you shouldn't have said that. It's like, oh fuck, I shouldn't have said that. That's awkward. That sucks. I don't have to see you guys for 362 year or days out of the year in real life. So I would like to maintain the relationships I have online by not being an asshole. And humor is a quick and slippery slope in some places.
Yeah, especially inappropriate humor. There's a lot of people that kind of give you a funny look when if you say the wrong thing and you're like, "Oh, I found the line," and I just kind of stepped over
All
it.
right. We're gonna write that down. Noted.
I'll have to store that for later.
Yeah, it's important. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
I know
But
that that's kind of a touchy subject for people online. Like, I'm gonna run the game that I'm gonna run, or I'm not gonna do
well,
whatever you got to, but be respectful.
absolutely. I think there's a difference between going after what you want and still respecting the rights of other people.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's obviously censorship sucks in a lot of ways, but sometimes self-censor is really really important. Um,
You don't have to speak everything that comes into your head,
Very true.
and that's back to the perks of playing online. Is I have had the very good experience. I know I've played with people that do not share my views on things or would disagree with me on other things. And I think Abtab specifically, there's a lot of people that, you know, we game at the table. I don't, I'm not trying to fight you. I'm not trying to argue with you. There are people I do and don't play with, and that's personal choices. I'm never going to tell them because I'm not trying to hurt anybody or make anybody feel bad. But I'm here to game at the table, and my games usually include a little bit of laughing. And if there was ever a person that didn't like that, don't play with me. And you don't have to tell me. You don't have to call me out for it. You just can ignore me, or I'm not trying to take away from anything. And I think that's a big part of this topic in general with humor and making people laugh is if it's taking away from what you're trying to accomplish, don't do it. And if it bolsters and adds to everyone's enjoyment, do it as much as the room feels. Because it's fucking it laugh. Well, I'm trying to have fun. I'm not trying. I mean, I'll cry with the best of them, but I don't necessarily want to do that the whole time. I got a lot of pride. I can't sit here and cry all night. Let's laugh. Let's have a good time, and that itself is that's a lifestyle, man.
Yeah, and you made a point in there where I think humor is also important to not just interject, but also, like you said, to understand like when to have humility. You have to have a little bit of a sense of humor to understand, when it's okay for your character to step back into the darkness for a bit, into the background. I think there's a certain level of humility that can be taught with having a sense of humor, knowing not to take it too seriously. There's a lot of people who you hurt their character, you injure them, or their character doesn't get the magic weapon in the scene or whatever, and they let that completely and totally taint their entire experience at the table because their character might be mad, but more importantly, the player is actually mad, and they decide to act out, and that's not cool. But if your character doesn't mean that much to you, well, I take that back. Not mean doesn't mean enough to you, but if you have a sense of humor about self, in particular about your character, then you're able to adapt and just roll with it much, much easier, I have found.
Absolutely. And oh man, that nails it. So hard. Because if you can laugh at yourself, you can laugh at the shitty things that happen to your character. Like I personally don't think I've ever made a throwaway character, if that makes sense. Like I have personal investment into every character that I make in some way because I came up with them. Like I can still remember characters. I can remember my first D&D character ever that I made when I was 8 years old. And his name was Shadow because I was 8 and he was, super cool elf, barbarian, ranger, and he's a fucking goof. And if I ever played this character with anybody, he would be laughed at, and I would laugh too. Not because I made a throwaway character, but because it's a game. If I am getting upset in a game, it's never really because of the game. And I feel like that's not because, like I said, I'm making a throwaway character. It's because I'm willing to let shitty things happen to this fictional person that I made just to see how it affects the story. Like when I don't understand, like rolling, cheating, and like you've rolled 20 or you've rolled five like critical hits this game in a row 3 times. I'm not saying you're cheating. I just don't think it's very there's been I've played games with you where it's like 4, 2, oh, we got a 7, 9, 3. And it's like, dude, this sucks. I'm not doing anything, but I'm not gonna sit here and get mad about it because I can't. It's dice. It's random. So my he's gonna be like the butt of the joke right now, and that's okay. It's a story. That in the same dichotomy that being sad highlights the happiness in the same way, your failures have the opportunity to bolster the successes of somebody else. Like, holy shit, I'm getting my ass kicked. Help me. And that character's like, I'm fucking rolling hella 20s, you know, fuck you, fuck this, I'll save you. It's like, thank you. And I mean, laugh it off. I have I haven't seen personally too many times people getting like upset when their character dies. I've had dozens of characters die. Like I said, one shot without a death is a dull affair. You know, it's not as impactful. Dying isn't it's a game, you know? People get upset about it, and me, I'm just like, you know, I will be the one that jumps into the dragon's mouth to save the maiden at the sacrifice of my own self. And everyone's like, holy shit, that was edgy but badass. And it's like, but I'm fucking dead. And that's okay. Laugh it off. It's a game. It makes for a good story. That's the thing. Just laugh it off. It's a game. It's a game.
Yeah. End of the day, that's all that it really is. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot about this game that I take very seriously.
Absolutely.
And
I wouldn't sit here and prep for hours
exactly.
every week for games if I didn't take it seriously, but I'm taking it seriously for the sake of enjoyment.
Bingo.
So, like, I mean, sure, I'm trying to make my players think. I'm trying to make my players, you know, question. And at the same time, I'm also trying to make my players make the jokes if I'm running the game or I'm trying to be provoked in a way that I can make the jokes. Like, I don't know. How many movies have you watched where some terrible thing has happened and there's not one person that's like, well, fuck this. This sucks. You know, it's a classic trope. It's there's always the one person that's like, yeah, this is terrible and I can do nothing about it. So I'm not gonna let it beat me. I'm gonna fucking laugh in its face. What's better than that? You can face down the evils of the world, but if you can't laugh in their faces as you do it, that's not even satisfying.
Yeah, man. I don't even really know what to add to that.
I'm rambling, so
No, it's a great conversation. I'm having a great time hitting a lot of really, really important parts of what I wanted to touch on with this discussion. I do have one more question that I'd like to ask you. This one's a little bit more personal. So sometimes life just sucks. You and I have been friends for a few years now, and I have had the pleasure of being able to share some of those moments from my own life, and likewise, as well as to hear out you during some of those times in your life. So the question is, do you sometimes find that you just aren't feeling like being funny? Is it harder to insert humor depending on the circumstance and situation that you might be in outside of the game?
so this is extremely, you know, my perspective on things because I mean, I have had the luxury of making some very good friends online. I have met people that I would never have met without this hobby because of this hobby. I have flown across the country and met these people in person. And the countless hours that I've spent in different lives with these various people, um, we've gone to war. You know, we have seen the edges of the earth, and I see these people maybe once a year, maybe some not at all. But with that, personally, and I'm very thankful for this, my disposition tends to be contextual, or when I sit down to play a game or sit down with people in real life, and I can be mad about something beforehand, but when I sit down with new people or change the context, I can close that chapter and move on to the next one. And I owe that a lot to um, the people that I surround myself with, the comfort that I can feel with these people, because I can joke about my problems. I can talk about my problems when I don't feel like being funny. And I don't ever feel like I don't want to be funny or involve humor in some way. And I wish everyone could feel that sometimes because there are people that when they feel upset, and there's nothing that you can do to change that. But when you come together for a professional game, not professional, more professional than you play in, chuckle fuckery games, for a game online, everyone, you get your game face on. I may not be as jokey, but I'm never not going, never not. I'm never going to like just turn it off. It doesn't turn off. I don't really want to meet that person. I could turn it off. That's scary. That sounds terrifying. I don't know. What it comes down to is frequency of how often that I just, peep up in a game. There are some games where I'm tired and, I'll chill in the background. I'll aid people. But then there's games where I'm in the setting, I'm involved, I'm trying to invoke my character while, bolstering my allies, sharing the spotlight, and it's just frequency. You don't shut off. You can't shut it off.
Yeah. I think I don't really feel like it's ever shut off either. It takes more to bring it out sometimes. It's
Absolutely.
less near the surface, if you will.
The frequency,
Yeah.
like I'm not gonna just, chat jokes. There's some days where I'm just enjoying. I mean, other people having the spotlight is nice because they're building the story. I mean, what's better than listening to a story that you're a part of and you're like, okay, I can use this. I can bring this up to so and so later to get this banter going. I can poke fun at this. I can really hit a sore spot with this character. You know, it's not me against the DM, it's not me against the other players, it's us. And sometimes turning down the frequency on myself allows me to play better later, and vice versa. Sometimes, I'm in it and in people's faces, and everyone's we it's the teeter totter, man. You go back and forth to get the best of both worlds. Yeah,
And I think that's
Carol has it right. It's me against everyone.
it's true. That's very, very true. He's figured it out, everyone. Game's over.
I'm on to all of you. I've figured it out. Carol, you have blown your cover.
Well, man, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on and talk about this.
No, thank you. I have been watching the help actions, and I was always secretly like, I hope I can figure out a topic that I can be like, Jeremy, let's talk about this. But you came to me with this, and I am humbled and honored, if anything.
Dude, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have the luxury of being able to game with a lot of people. I play a lot, but that does afford me the chance to play with a lot of people from the community, which is something that I am very proud and very humbled by. And there's a handful of people from the gaming group that I've collected that are very, very close friends. We talk all the time, and you're probably one of the funniest people that I've ever met in real life. And so I knew whenever I had to find a reason to get you on the channel, and I finally hit on this idea, I was like, there's no question.
I am.
Well said.
Yeah.
Poignant as always.
Got it. You nailed it. Yeah, I'm right there with you. There's a few people that I met and it was like, I need to talk to you about stuff and things and this hobby and other stuff. And it's it's been crazy the last couple of years how many people I've met and gamed with, and the Abtab is a melting pot, and I've had the luxury of getting to dip my cup and taking out stuff that I never would have had without it. So
Yeah, it's been a fantastic thing to kind of tap into this community and become a part of it, become fully integrated. And there's a ton of amazing people here, not even just talented, role players and talented GMs, talented game designers, things of
there's
that nature.
artists, there's
Yeah,
writers, there's crafters, dude, blows my mind.
yeah, and some of them are, you know, avid historians, and they bring fantastic tidbits of information, to the table. And some
Dude,
people,
we were playing in a game not too long ago, and it was like accurate maps and locations and like information about these places. And it's like, do you really know about all this stuff in real life? I just make it up.
one of my favorite GMs that probably has taught me the most is a friend of mine who is a history buff, and every time he runs a game, his historical stuff is on point, and it's because he's read a 500 and 600 page book about this particular war that took place 600 years ago, and like he maintains all of that kind of information in like this steel trap of a brain he's got, and then he's able to kind of extract from that. And
Regurgitate it in D&D form.
yeah, absolutely. And man, like whenever I started playing under him, I was like, this guy is crazy. It's like the fountain of knowledge that's trapped inside of that head of his. I was like, this is awesome. And it made the settings and things so much more rich and believable
Oh,
because
absolutely.
they're based on reality. So,
And personally, I've always been an avid reader, and I think that, dude, I will always recommend books to anyone. Like, you want to be better at something, read about it. The the words you can use that you pick up from from I
some
don't know
people call
what.
that vocabulary.
Yeah, that thing. Um, like you see someone run a game and it's like, I want to run a naval game. But it's like, all right, what's the difference between port and bow or starboard? And I don't know. I've been on a boat like 4 times where this was contextually important to me. I've been on a boat like 2 other times where it wasn't, so that none of this mattered. It's you do a little why read or watch stuff. Prior knowledge helps this game so much because if someone asks you a question about like the boat and you're like, well, I'm gonna be honest with you, my guy, I don't know anything about boats. It's like, well, oh, okay, we're just making it up then, and I mean, it helps. I don't, not the subject of this conversation. Read books. Everyone, fucking read books. Go to your library, get a library card, read a fucking book. PSA of the day.
If you take nothing else from this entire conversation,
Fucking
read
read a
books.
book.
At least funny ones, maybe.
It can have pictures. I don't care.
Dr. Seuss. It's a good place to start.
I would run a game, or I would play in a game by Dr. Seuss.
Would you play a game? Would you
Yes,
get any fame?
Stop.
Oh, God.
Could you go insane? Yes.
Anyways. All right. So yeah, man. Like I said, it was a no-brainer having you on, but I'm very, very thankful that you agreed to come and do so. So you want to plug anything? Give an outro.
Uh, if you've frequented the Erasmus expeditions at all, you've heard this 100 times. My name's Baron. I run the YouTube channel RWD Gaming, where I run some D&D live plays and various other systems occasionally. We are kind of on a hiatus over there, so there's nothing immediate coming up, but hopefully here in the near future, potentially after AtCon, I'm going to be kicking her back into gear, seeing where we can roll with disadvantage in the future. But other than that, check out AbTab, support your local game store, um, kiss your spouse, be good to people.
I love animals.
Use your blinker.
God, please. That's what the message should be that you take away from this. Fuck books. Use your blinker.
Read books. Use your blinker.
All right. So yeah, we need to put a wrap up on this. Thank you everyone who watched and tuned in this evening. It honestly means a lot that there are people who are interested in this show. And as long as everybody or people are still interested in it, I plan on continuing to do it. I have my next guest lined up. It will be Joshua Sanders, and we will be discussing compelling characters, and that's coming next month. So yeah. Oh, I did want to dedicate this episode. It has been a couple of weeks, but one of my favorite comedians of all time passed away, and his name was Tim Conway. So I'm sure some of the older people in the audience might know who that is. But if you don't know who that is, you should go check him out. Go find his work anywhere you can, particularly on the Carol Burnett Show. The man was a comic genius, as far as I'm concerned. And even though he hadn't done anything in a long while, mourning his loss is certainly that kind of hits close to home for me. So thank you, Tim. Yeah, so I can't think of anything else. Awesome. Until next time, may your dice roll high and your snacks always be within reach.